I don't know how many of y'all have realized this, but let me tell y'all something. The life that we all knew and once had and once enjoyed pre COVID is never coming back. The life that we perceived as normal pre COVID is never coming back. It doesn't matter who the president is, it doesn't matter who controls the Senate, it doesn't matter who controls the House. It doesn't matter what plans that the government implement. It doesn't matter what direction they want to take the country in. The life that we once knew and once had and once enjoyed before COVID is no more. You can gripe, you can march, you can boycott, you can do whatever you want, but the world that we once knew is gone, and we have the numbers to prove it. I don't know if y'all remember, but before COVID, the average rent was about $1,100 per month. Maybe a little less in some places, maybe a tad higher in others. But the average rent across the US was $1,100. Now it's around $2,000 per month. That is a 37% increase. It's almost unheard of. And the sad thing about that, the reality of it, is never going back down, ever. We have printed too much money. We have increased the national debt to an enormous amount that's pretty much unheard of. What it is unheard of is the highest it ever been in history. And we have allowed the government interference to distort the housing market. You see, people keep waiting on what they perceive as normal, like it's an X that's going to come back. The normal life, or what we perceive as normal pre-COVID, is an X factor. It's gone. It's never coming back. It's over. It's time to move on. You can't build life based on nostalgia. There will never be a time where rent will ever be $1,000. Rent will never be $1,000 a month again, ever. And if your mindset has not adjusted to the new economy, then you already been left behind. What about the housing market? The median sales price of a house right now is about $422,000. That's up from about $280,000 before the pandemic. And that's not inflation, folks. That's a reset. And while Americans are busy working hard and struggling, trying to figure out how they can pay, or trying to figure out how they can keep up with this $2,000 a month rent and paying $5 for a dozen eggs, Washington, however, are busy playing politics. While the rest of us is living life, living real life, the politicians are in Washington playing politics. The government has been shut down for about 20 days now. Not because they can't figure out or come up with a solution to this $37 trillion debt that they have incurred. No, it's not that. But it's because both sides, Democrat and Republican, are too busy fighting for headlines. Let's talk about it. You see, Democrats are holding out, refusing to reopen the government until they get an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Basically, what they want is more taxpayer dollars to keep the health insurance premium lower for certain groups. On the other hand, the Republicans are saying reopen the government first and then we'll talk. They don't want to negotiate with the light sauce, so to speak. The Republicans, they don't want to negotiate anything with the Democrat while the government is shut down. And so here we are. Americans, however, are the hostages, while both parties argue about who's more righteous, who has the better idea. That's the thing, man. The folks in charge, the people in charge in Washington, they're not feeling the struggle that you are feeling. They're not feeling the struggle that I'm feeling. They're not worried about the rent hike. They're not worried about the grocery bill. They're not worried about the gas they're going to take to go in their gas tank. They're insulated. They're protected. They're safe. But you, and you, and you, all of y'all, and me, we had to adapt. While Congress get to go home in their secure, insulated bubble, we have to struggle and figure out a way to adapt. And if we don't adapt, we get left behind. This is what I tell people. Life doesn't care about your feelings. I repeat, life doesn't care about your feelings. Neither does the market. And for those who are watching me today or evening, depending on what time zone you're in, for those who are listening, this is my suggestion to you and also a suggestion to myself. At a time like this, we need to get discipline. We need to get discipline. We need to get a side hustle. We need to build a skill, because complaining about what's going on in the world today, complaining about what the government is doing, complaining about the government shutdown, complaining about the so-called inflation, complaining about the reset, complaining about the rent, all that complaining is not going to pay the bills. We need to get discipline, get a side hustle, and learn a skill. And find a way to make money for ourselves. That's what's going to pay our bills. And we need to stop thinking that the government is going to save us. Stop thinking that the government is going to save you. The government, as you can see, they can't even balance their own checkbook. How can they fix yours? You can't keep waiting for a miracle from people that profit off of your struggle. This is the new America. This is the new life. It's not fair. It's hard. It's harsh. It's not easy. But it's reality. This is the new America. You can't. I would say this. We have to get this mindset right here. And I know y'all have heard this before, because I have. It's not about what happens to you. It's how you respond. The government has shut down. A lot of people are being furloughed. A lot of people are going to be without jobs. But it doesn't matter what happens to you. It's how you respond. Now, I don't have an answer to tell. I don't have a way. I don't know what to tell anybody really how to respond, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's potential is different. Everybody's ability is different. But you yourself, when something like this is going on, something like this is happening to you, no matter what it is, if you lost your job, you about to lose your home, it's how you respond is what's going to make the difference of how you come out of the situation. You see, let's be clear. What we're witnessing here with our Congress, with our government, what we're witnessing here now is yet another attempt to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is a policy born out of President Barack Obama's vision that every American deserves access to basic health care. At that time, they dubbed it, and which I didn't even know this really, but at the time they dubbed it Obamacare. And it wasn't, they didn't give that bill the title Obamacare out of respect. No, It was a way to taint his legacy with the same disdain they reserved for anything that uplifts working people. But let's be clear. We all know what this is really about. We all know what it's really about. It's about Donald Trump. A 32-time convicted felon masquerading as a leader. Donald Trump has never, and I repeat, has never stomached the success or the intellect or the dignity of former President Obama. Matter of fact, President Donald Trump has committed his life to doing whatever he can possibly do to erase all the accomplishments that President Barack Obama has achieved. Simply because President Obama represents everything that Donald Trump doesn't. Educated, composed, articulate, and untainted by criminality. That's why President Donald Trump can't stand former President Barack Obama. However, this is not about policy. It's about power. It's about ego. It's about erasure. And my opinion is, if I'm being real, this is the same old story. A system that is threatened by a black man's brilliance, a system that is threatened by a black leader's integrity, and a system that is threatened by a black legacy that dared to care for all people. But let me tell you something, and I need y'all to really listen to me now. You see what's happening? While these political jokers, the Democrats and the Republicans, are playing tug-of-war up in Washington, you have real American citizens out here about to lose everything. While they're playing games and playing tug-of-war up in Washington in their little bubble, the rest of us stand to lose everything. There are some people that work for the federal government right now that are facing eviction. Some of them cars that they use to drive to second and third jobs are probably up for repossession. Some of them, not all. We don't know. We don't know their financial situation. Some of these families who have the husband and wife or single parent homes where the parent is working for the federal government have the possibility of their utilities being turned off. This is the reality. You see, people are being forced to make an impossible choice. Do I buy food for my kids or do I pay the rent? Do I keep the lights on or do I keep the roof over our head? Do you understand the magnitude of the misery that we're talking about? And when we're talking about food, and to all those listening, let me say this loud and clear with absolute clarity because this is serious. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, better known as SNAP, or to a lot of us, food stamps. As of right now, October 2025, the recipients are still going to get their benefits for the month of October. You can take a deep breath. Most of the people who are on food stamps right now will get their SNAP benefits on time in the month of October 2025. But here where things get dicey. Listen to this. The USDA has already warned states that if this government shutdown drags into November, which is literally about 10 or 11 days away, there might not be enough money to pay full SNAP benefits. That's right. Insufficient funds. We got states already hitting the panic button. Texas. In Texas, the Texas officials are saying straight up, if this shutdown goes past late October, November benefits could be halted. And Minnesota is telling folks if this nonsense continue into late October, early November, new SNAP approvals could stop and benefits could be paused. In Pennsylvania, they're gone public. Nearly 2 million people could be left hanging without the November payments if Congress does not get its act together. And even if the money does somehow come through, don't get too comfortable, because the timing or the amount could still change. We could be talking delays, reduced payouts, or last minute adjustments. I tell you something else. Everybody who works for the federal government is not walking around with stacks of cash. All of them are not stable financially. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are just as tight financially as anybody else in the country. I don't think some of y'all even comprehend how close to the abyss we are. A lot of Americans right now, a lot of those public servants are just 2 hours short on their next paycheck from the whole house of cards crashing down. That means that their finances are so tight that they can't even afford to miss 2 hours off their paycheck. 2 hours could be the utilities getting turned off. Them 2 hours that missing off their check could cause them to get evicted. It could cause them not to be able to pay a medical bill. It could cause them not to be able to pay their children's tuition. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of federal workers who are not getting paid. They're not getting an entire check. Forget 2 hours. They're not getting a full check. They're not getting a check as we speak. And those folks in Congress, they are gambling with our lives, with our financial stability right in our faces. They're gambling in your faces. They're playing in your faces. While they get to go home and sleep in the little bubble that I keep bringing up. I got a question. Do you think for 1 minute, just 1 minute, do you think there's a single member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, that has lost 1 ounce of sleep over this government shutdown? Seriously, do you think just one member of Congress has lost any sleep? How many of them do you think have walked around with no appetite, not eating? Because they are so stressed about the government shutdown. They are so stressed that some of the people that they swore to serve may not be able to pay their rent next month, may not be able to pay their car note, may not be able to keep the utilities on, may not be able to put food on the table. Do you think they breaking a sweat? Do you think any one of them are losing sleep? I don't think so. I doubt it. Why? Because every last one of those politicians in Congress are still getting their paycheck. Not a piece, not a fraction, the whole check. They're not being affected. They're comfortable. They're secure. Unlike you, unlike those in the back, unlike me, they're comfortable. They're secure. While the people they swore to serve here in the trenches, while the people that they swore to serve are in the trenches, suffering. Let's look at who's talking. Let's look who we're talking about here. People who still have to show up to work with no pay. Law enforcement, the Border Patrol agents, the FBI, the Federal Correctional Officers, the TSC agents, they're on the clock. They ain't getting paid. Transportation, the air traffic controllers, they're guiding planes, keeping the skies safe. They ain't getting paid. Health and safety, the meat inspectors, the food inspectors, the VA medical staff who care for the veterans. They're not. They are performing critical duties. Listen, they ain't getting paid. There's rumor has it that they would get the pay would be retroactive when the government opens back up, but who knows when that may be? Who knows? If your rent was due, if your rent is already late, what if the government doesn't open up until December? What you gonna do for food? What are they gonna do for utilities? That's the plight they're in. They're going to work. They're doing their job. They're putting in the work. While the people who caused this mess, Congress, the politicians, they get sleep sound at night. They get to go home to all the utilities, the electricity is on, their nice pretty house, their mortgage is paid, or their rent is paid, their car note is paid, their children's tuition is paid. They get to sleep soundly at night. Me, personally, I find that unquestionably unmitigated buffoonery. It is. And they need to cut it out. You see, I don't know how religious some of y'all are who may be listening to this. I don't know what religion some of y'all may belong to. I don't know if y'all read your Bible, but this is what I believe. This is why God, through the Bible in Psalms 146 verse 3, one of my favorite scriptures, by the way, tells us, do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save. Period. It doesn't say, and I don't care what religion you are, what you believe. Don't try to twist this scripture. Don't try to interpret it to fit your belief. This is what it says. It says, do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save. It doesn't say, do not put your trust in princes, in human beings, unless he's a preacher, unless he's an elder, unless he's a pope, unless he's a bishop, or unless he's a government official. No, it says do not put your trust in princes, in human beings. Period. Why? Because in Jeremiah 10 verse 23, it says that a man's way does not belong to him. It does not belong to a man who is walking, even to direct his step. That scripture is very evident right now. That is evident right now. This is where we are. There are 535 voting members in Congress. That's 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House of Representatives. All these heads collectively cannot come up with a simple and responsible solution without jeopardizing the livelihood and the financial stability of the American people. Bottom line is this right here. This isn't just politics. This is about people's dinner tables. This is about people's families. This is about survival. Handle your business, Congress. This ain't a game. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Convo with Lee Show. Y'all have a great day.